Hey, good morning, everybody. Hello, it's Brad. I hope you are having a blessed day slash morning slash afternoon slash evening, wherever, whenever it is that you're watching this Bible devotion. We are beginning a new adventure today. We finished up with our study in Philippians yesterday. And as is or has been recently, our tradition, we like to go over at least the basics of the birth of Christ about mid-December, leading up to the holiday season, leading into the holiday season, because I don't like to say, necessarily, I don't like to cause fights with the actual birth date of Jesus because we don't know. We really don't know. And it's most likely that the birth date is not December 24th. There's a lot of biblical evidence that would show that that is frankly not accurate. But I personally don't think that is what's important at all. It's that we are celebrating the birth of Christ. And we're going to get into that. So don't get tripped up on dates. Don't start fights, saying, well, it had to be during this, blah, blah, blah. It had to be during that. The truth is we don't really know. But we have a good idea of where it probably is. And I guarantee you it most probably was not December. Does that stop my family from celebrating during December? No, we celebrate during December. Why? That's just tradition. Simple. That's it. It's not worth fighting over. That's my whole point. So try not to get off track on that. So we are going to be going through the birth of Christ, and I'll tell you what, I have backed up a little bit further than when I normally go into this study. We're going to basically be hitting, we're going to go between Matthew, the book of Matthew, and Luke, because of the four Gospels, those are the two that actually give us information on the actual birth of Christ, okay? So we're going to be flip-flopping between Matthew and Luke, and this is going to be really, really cool. But like I was saying, I went in a little more depth in the backstory of what led up to, historically, Jesus' birth. And boy, oh boy, let me tell you what, there's some stuff in here that I actually learned in the last few days that I actually didn't know my whole life. And it does strengthen my resolve, and it does give a broader understanding of the birth of Christ. And I can't wait to start telling you. I mean, I got 3 pages of notes today, and I don't even think we're going to get to much of reading in Matthew. We'll see what happens. So that said, let's see who's here. Excuse me. We're going to get started. I'm just going to skim a few names. Excuse me, guys. My nose has been running. I better go catch it. Good morning to Tom, Plan with Jen, Wesley, Pepper Leah, Alicia, Steve Ganink, Danny Thrive, Tanya A. Good morning to Faith and Family, Adele, Delaney B, Catherine, Faith and Family, Sally H.C. Phoebe, Jeanette, Test Cooks for You, Southern Prairie Homestead, T. Pearson. You know what? I'm just skimming. I'm skimming today because I really want to get to the information. So, hey, everybody, good morning. Good morning to you all, and especially all those whose names just got skipped. I normally say it was unintentional, but today it is intentional because I want to get to this. So good morning to you all. All right. We're going to be looking into the book of Matthew and the book of Luke, but we're also going to be jumping around in the Old Testament when prophecies of Jesus' birth are applicable to what we're looking into. And by the way, if you don't know, or if you haven't been here, we do encourage you to chat, but just stay on the topic of what we're talking about. That's all. So we do encourage that. So, okay, first things first. Let's start here. And this is gonna be broad brushstroke city. Okay, ready? setting the stage. About the time of Jesus' birth, for 400 years before that, about 400 years, God had been completely silent. No prophets, no major miracles, no new revelations, and he had been active in the lives of the Jews pretty much consistently for, thousands of years, right? Okay. So what you've got this people, this Jewish nation, 12 tribes, right? We know all of the miracles. We know all of the characters, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We know all of that. And these are a people who went in that cycle that we've talked about. They would have it's almost like a circle. They would have times where they were really in lockstep with God and they were doing exactly what they should do. And then they would get complacent and they would stop doing certain things. And then they would get complacent. God would start warning them, don't go there. Don't do that. Remember me, I'm God. And then they would go there. And then they would get to such a bad place that God would literally chastise them in ways that were, banishment, enslavement, plagues, that he would use those things to go, shake, 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 shake. Hey, pay attention. I'm God and you're running away from me into idolatry and you need to quit. And so then they would go through this cycle of being chastised and having to go through all this horrible stuff. And then they would come to a place of repentance. And that kept happening again and again and again and again. Okay. So now you're up to 400 years before the birth of Jesus. Okay. Now, silence. Nothing. No new revelation. Oh, Delaney B. Sounds a lot like the U.S. today. Wait till you hear what we've got to talk about today. You're not going to believe the parallels in the political world then as there is today. T. Pearson says he was silent longer than the U.S. has been in existence as a nation. True. True, true, true. So 400 years of no direct communication, which they were used to, whether it was a prophet or a teacher or somebody or God himself. They were used to that communication, and God was strangely silent. So, to give you an idea where we're at as a timeline in history, okay? 334 to 330 BC, okay? This was, in that period of silence-ish. 334 to 330 BC, Alexander the Great, the Roman conqueror, the great Roman conqueror, he sweeps through Asia Minor and takes Mesopotamia and institutes Roman rule, all in that whole section of the world, okay? Think about that for a second. The Roman Empire. They were around for a long time, people. 334 to 330. That's when Alexander the Great starts sweeping into this area. You remember the historical figure Spartacus? Real guy. They made the movie based on a real guy. He happened to live about 73 to 71-ish is when he was a gladiator slave. Wait a minute. Where do I know that? Huh? Maybe that movie, Gladiator? It was based on a real historical person named Spartacus. He leads an ultimately unsuccessful slave revolt against the Romans from 73 to 71. This is interesting. 47 BC. Okay, so we're getting closer. 47 BC, right? That's when the Library of Alexandria burns to the ground. One of the great wonders of the world. the Library of Alexandria. They said that they had over 500,000 scrolls with all of the knowledge of the world. Burns. Okay? About 40 BC, the Roman Senate declares Herod the Great king of the Jews. And I mean air quotes, king of the Jews. Herod the Great, which will come into play real fast. He's the guy that was in charge when Jesus was born, right? He was installed as the guy in charge. He was installed as, quotes, the king of the Jews, and Rome assigns him to rule over Palestine, Judea, and Galilee. But his rule really didn't start till about 37 BC because he had to recapture Jerusalem from Antigonus. So isn't that interesting? Then, if now we're getting closer even, Egypt in 30 BC becomes a Roman province. So Rome just is cutting through. They're going across that whole area of the world, and they're just basically taking. They take, and what they do, their MO, is they will conquer a place, and then they'll install a governorship or king, or they'll use whatever titles that make sense to those people. But ultimately, those people that, like Herod the Great, his job is pretty simple, really, but incredibly difficult all at the same time. His job was to keep the peace and pay taxes to Rome. That was really it. And these pesky Jews were a real problem for Herod. And we're going to see there's some interesting stuff about him here. That some of this stuff I didn't know. So Egypt now is a Roman province. So Rome is still pushing around the corner there. And this is an interesting thing. Around 20 or between 20 and 19 BC, Herod the Great, air quotes, king of the Jews, begins rebuilding and upgrading and expanding the temple. Herod the Great was the one that pushed forward this building project. Sound political to you? Hey, you Jews that are pushing back and constant revolt and are trying to get out from underneath the thumb of Rome, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a nice building project that I know you're going to like. We'll pay for it. We'll expand and rebuild and upgrade the temple. How's that? Sound like political purchasing power to you? I'll do this for you guys if you just chill out. Okay. Now, around 5-ish BC, we don't know exactly when, around 5-ish BC, yeah, the New Green Deal, true. That's when Jesus was born. And this was actually in the last days of Herod. He had an illness that was supposedly excruciating. They didn't really say historically what he had because he might have had something that they just didn't have a name for. Yep, T. Pearson, correct. Like politicians building bigger stadiums today. Don't get me started on that. In Cincinnati, the place where the whatever there are, I don't watch football. The Cincinnati Angry Football Men. I don't know what their name is. That was paid for by taxpayers, but it's a privately owned stadium. How's that work? Okay. So, and then shortly after Jesus is born, Herod dies, and his kingdom is split between his 3 sons. Now, there's some really the Bengals. Is the Bengals. It is the Bengals, like a tiger. The Bengals is that weird girl band from the 80s. Did they do? No, they did. Did they do walk like an Egyptian? Walk like an Egyptian. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Herod the Great. There's some stuff that we need to look into this guy because it's going to make more sense why he was so maniacal, why he was so much of a crackhead. This guy, you don't go killing all these babies without having some serious screws loose, okay? All right. Herod the Great. This is interesting. First of all, he wasn't a Jew, but he told everybody he was a Jew. Okay? Check this out. He was the son of a high-ranking official in Palestine. I can't read my handwriting. Hagmonas, Hagmonian-ish dynasty in Palestine, right? It was an independent kingdom, but then what happens is when Rome rolled through and conquered those people, his family was an important family. His dad was a high-ranking official. That's how he got his connection, okay? That's how he got his connection to Rome. They were a conquered people. They said, okay, fine, sure. And like I said, what was Rome's MO? They would find people that were of influence or high up in the government there, and they would just say, okay, you're going to be the boss. You now serve Rome. And they go, sure, yeah, absolutely. Because what was your job? Keep the peace, pay tax to Rome. That was really the main things. So Herod the Great's dad was somebody. He was a muckety-muck. He was somebody. And so Herod was the likely candidate to rule. Now, Herod was not Jewish, but he told everybody he was. Here's what he really was. This is really interesting. Idumean, Eduman. He was an Edomite. Does anybody know what an Edomite is? You got to go back. You got to go back in your Old Testament. This is interesting. He was an Edomite. I'm not going to tell you right away. I want to see if anybody types it in without Googling it. No Googling. Do you just know or don't you know? A grand poobah. Close, but no. He was from the line of Esau. T. Pearson wins the Golden Cupid doll. That means he was an enemy of Israel. That tribe was, or that, when that broke off, that relationship, when that broke off, they were enemies of Israel. Remember? Esau? Yeah. Interesting, huh? So he was really an Arab. He was an Arab. But he told everybody publicly he was Jewish. And historically, we can go back and look and see that at times he did some Jewish things, but more accounts show that he was really bad at keeping the law or just didn't do it at all. So he would tell everybody publicly, yeah, I'm a Jew, sure. I'm a Jew. And then he would do a few things to kind of play the part. You following what I'm saying? And then, but ultimately, he really didn't do all the stuff that Jews do. Wait a minute. I know somebody who claims to be a Catholic and is in a really big position of power today, but doesn't do anything Catholic. Huh. Matter of fact, endorses abortion. Wait a minute. That's not very Catholic. Who am I trying to think of? I don't know. Some guy named Brandon, I think. You get my point? These politicians, guys, have not changed. They have not changed. Herod the Great was no different than any of all the others, right? King Brandon. Yep. They play the part to win your loyalty when they're really full of crap. Oh, wait, I said crap. Dang. I'm really messing up today. Crappy Brandon stories. Okay. So it's no different, guys. That's the whole idea. So he's playing like he's a Jew in front of the Jews because he's installed as a leader of the Jews, when in fact his lineage is enemy of the Jew. Isn't that funny? Hey, what was that song by The Who? Meet the New Boss. Same as the old boss, right? Politicians is publicly to look like he would every once in a while. So he was appointed by Rome as a governor of Judea, keep the peace and pay taxes. And so he was stuck in the middle of all of these Jews that wanted to revolt and get their own identity back. They didn't want to be under the thumb of Rome. They didn't want it. They militarily would try everything they could do. There was rebellions. There was all kinds of stuff. And Herod was constantly under that pressure from Rome to keep the peace. And he did so brutally. I mean, brutally. And this guy was no saint. Let me just read a short paragraph of history about how awesome Rome or Herod was. Let me see. And by awesome, I mean completely a ding dong. Okay. Okay. In historical events, he always feared potential rivals. He had his wife's brother, Aristobulus, the high priest, drowned in the swimming pool in the palace. He put 46 members of the Sanhedrin to death. He killed his mother-in-law. He also had his wife, Maramane, murdered along with her two sons. So that's relatives. As he considered them potential rivals with legitimate claim to the throne because of their Hasmonean lineage. Herod had 10 wives in all and many other children who did not have Hasmonean blood. Augustus Caesar said, it was reported to have been said, it is better to be Herod's dog than one of his children. Whoa. So, this is a guy with a serious problem, and he's in charge, and that's leading right up to the birth of Jesus. He's the guy that's in charge. Now, let's not forget, he would do certain things to buy the favor of the people. That building project on adding on, upgrading, and making the temple bigger, better, badder, awesomer, that was no small feat. As a matter of fact, historically, it's noted that the temple, after Herod's renovations, was even better than when Solomon built it. Bigger, better, nicer, all of it. Yeah, polling numbers. Think polling numbers. What do? You buy votes. Hey, I'll tell you what, we'll build the temple like way nicer. That's buying votes, man. That's buying loyalty so they'd stop their rebellions. Keep the peace at all costs. Okay? So that's where the stage is set, that Jesus is getting ready to come into the world. God, the Word made flesh, will dwell among us in that setting. Now, before we go any further, you got to keep in mind, think again, the 400 years of silence. Rome's taken over. They don't like it. There's rebellions. They're trying to push back. They are looking for Messiah. But one of the big things people forget is they wanted a Messiah that was a military leader just as much as a spiritual leader. They didn't want Jesus. They wanted somebody who was going to come in and put Rome in their place, restore the kingdom like the Davidic kingdom. And also, yeah, sure, it'd be really nice if he was a good priest too. That'd be awesome. But they were looking for somebody to push Rome back just as much as they were, and probably even more, than they wanted a spiritual kingdom. But they really didn't think or expect or even want somebody who would come in and say, you know what, no, peace is the way to go. Love is the way to go. Sacrificing yourself is the way to go. Faith, hope, love, that's the way to go. That is not what they wanted, which is a really, really interesting juxtaposition when you think about, okay, this is where you are in the world. They wanted somebody to push back. And also, sure, it'd be nice if he was a priest too. But that wasn't the big thrust. And then when Jesus got there and everybody started realizing this guy's probably the Messiah, but he's nothing like what we wanted. Oh, crud. What do we do? And that's why, or one of the reasons, there's many, 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 many reasons. We're going to get into the Sanhedrin. We're going to get into the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the regular everyday Jewish person, why there was so much turmoil inside what you would call the church. We're going to get into that. Oh my gracious. It's already 9 o'clock. I didn't even get to Matthew. Well, then we're going to start Matthew tomorrow. But here's the thing. The book of Matthew and the book of Luke. Here's another thing to keep in mind. They weren't written until, well, Matthew was written in the late 50s AD or early 60s, depending on how you date it. And Luke was written in the early 60s AD, right around the time of after the book of Acts, when the events of the book of Acts happened. So these Gospels were written long after the death of Christ, the death and resurrection of Christ. We're talking 30-ish years. So keep that in mind. It wasn't like the events happened and then they wrote them down. No. There was a lot of life that happened between the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ and then when these books were actually written. Okay? So, Matthew, written by Matthew, disciple, tax collector. A lot of people would consider him scum of the earth. There's an interesting thought. Ultimately, Matthew would, well, he was, okay, he would not have been working for Herod because Herod died. But whoever Herod's successor was, one of those three sons, Matthew would have been working for him. He took taxes, gave them to them, they gave them to Rome. Interesting, huh? Luke, not written right away either, long after. We're going to get into this, and I'll tell you what, people, there's a lot in here that will enrich and enhance your understanding and why it was so important when and exactly where Christ decided to come into the world. It's all impacting. So, that said, that's going to be my notes for today because, doggone it, I only had 3 pages. I'm slacking. All right. So, that said, guys, I'm glad you're chatting it up and adding comments. I'm skimming the comments as I'm going as best I can while I stay on track, but good comments from what I'm seeing. This is going to be a good study, guys. This is going to be a good study. So, anyway, that said, let's pray, and we're going to get on with our day. All right. Father God, we love you. Help us to learn more about you and help us to get excited and want to dig in so that we can know you better, so that we can communicate your love for the world better. We love you, Jesus. Thank you. Amen. All righty, guys. Where's the camera? Oh, there you are. Hey, have an awesome day. Bye.
Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who made us and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him, bless his name. For the Lord is good, his steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. I will sing of your steadfast love and justice to you, O Lord. I will make music, I will ponder the way that is blameless. Oh, when will you come to me? I will walk with integrity of heart within my house. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him, bless his name. I will not set before my eyes anything that is worthless. I will not set before my eyes anything that is worthless. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him, bless his name. For the Lord is good, his steadfast love